Hello, everyone, and welcome to the most energetic 10 a.m. time webinar that you're going to have. Welcome to our fun conversation today, all about marketing wins, starting with clean operations. I am Crystal Williams with Lemon Seed Marketing. I'm the co-founder here. We have been in business almost 6 years now, and we are about to have our sixth Lemon Seed Conference here in Lufkin, Texas in 2 weeks, and we are so excited. But I love these webinar series that we are doing about how we can help contractors identify common situations that we are seeing contractors find themselves in that are detrimental to their marketing. Detrimental to that. So when I realized that we had so much like issues with data, existing customer cultivation, I was like, oh, I know exactly who I want to reach out to and get her opinion on how we can do this. So Pam Duffy, I love Pam. Gotten to meet her at several things. Gotten to really appreciate the expertise that you bring to this. So Pam, tell everybody about yourself a little bit and what Powerhouse Consulting does.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, good morning. I am also here for the energy. I do have a little bit of like the crud that's going around
Oh
right now,
man,
so
same.
sorry for my like raspy voice, but at any rate, yes. Hey everybody, I'm Pam Duffy. I've been in the industry nearly 20 years. I started my career actually as an engineer and did a whole lot on the commercial HVAC side of things and several years ago, I was working on the marketing side of residential HVAC, our contractor side of things. And at that time, more and more contractors were adopting Service Titan and specifically the Marketing Pro module in Service Titan. And that's when I really started geeking out a little bit and using my engineering brain on retargeting and remarketing to existing customers and realized many contractors are not taking good care of their processes and workflows and back-end operations, which was leading to poor performance in these marketing campaigns. And what was really interesting about that problem to me was no matter how perfect I designed a marketing campaign, it would inevitably fail because the data that we were putting into those campaigns was not good data. So
Yes.
customers that were receiving the campaigns that should not have been receiving the campaigns, that was making your very valuable customers upset. And then customers that should have been receiving it were not receiving those campaigns, which was really limiting the ROI on those campaigns. So around that time, a colleague of mine, Jenny Benbrook, and myself and one other individual, we decided to found Powerhouse Consulting Group. So we are also just about as old as Lemon Seed. So we just celebrated our 5-year anniversary. So going into our 6th year of business. Primarily what we do at Powerhouse is help contractors make the most of their software investments. For example, platforms like Service Titan and others. So we do a lot of coaching, a lot of training, guidance, workflow setup, and monitoring of those workflows to make sure that you're investing all that money into that software and making sure it's a success. And then we even go beyond that, step beyond that, and help with any third-party integrations, help identifying the best technology solutions that all fit together to make the best technology stack for a contractor. So that's a little bit about what we do in my team, but I'm particularly passionate about this specific topic because that is how I got my start in this sort of phase of my career. And certainly, I mean, we're going to talk for an hour about it, right? But certainly I feel very passionate about the idea that great marketing starts with good operations.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a good conversation, probably a buckle up conversation. But
Yeah.
before we get too deep in this, at the end of today or towards the end of today's webinar, Powerhouse does have a link to a cool downloadable item that we'll be talking through here. So make sure you guys stay and wait for that. We'll also be sending it out hopefully with the recap of this if you signed up. But you're going to want to hear them talk about it. So welcome to Lisa, Hannah, Christina, and Sherry, welcome. If you're joining us, we love to know where you're from and what services you offer. That helps Pam and I sometimes be able to use better examples of things. And so right now it's looking like we're mostly plumbing and HVAC definitely heavy on the HVAC side. So, just to frame today's conversation, again, I'm passionate about overall marketing performance. Pam is passionate, and we both come from the trades. We know what you go through as a contractor and how important it is for us to highlight things that are honestly, I think, minimal fixes or touch points that if you just shift a tiny bit here and there, you will grow in your ability to trust your data. So, just a little bit of framing. So, we know that contractors are spending money on marketing and on new customer acquisition, right? Y'all spend money on it. How can we help you make the most of it? Because many of you aren't exactly sure where your leads come from, and you're not exactly sure if you're profitable on them. Did things convert over to a job? And if they did, what are other opportunities? So we need to be looking at our database as a treasure trove. It is low hanging fruit. It is how we can survive like lulls in our workflow, if you will. So, all of a sudden we hit a little rough patch of seasonality or extreme temperatures that in the wrong direction. Like right now, I wish it would get a lot more cold in East Texas, but it's very mild, right? So, in mild weather times, when weather is not pushing our workload, we need something. And honestly, one of the easiest places to go is your existing database. But this is my whole point on it depends on how operationally sound you are, specifically, in my opinion, on the CSR side and data entry side, and then what you are requiring people to do. My one little caveat that I tell everyone: you are the owner. Stop letting the prisoners run the prison, right? So we've got to tell them, like, hey, these are our expectations of data entry. Age of equipment is one of my favorite, like, I can stick my stake in that one. If you are not asking your number one, ask the homeowner originally on the call, how old do you think your system is? I don't know. How long have you lived in the house? I've lived in here 10 years. Have you replaced the system since you've lived there? Nope. Well, then it's at least 10 years old. And you know what that says? Age of equipment. That should be, this is an opportunity call. So we're really going to talk through a lot of those little key points like that today. But when you have clean operations, it gives us a better visibility to things, and it helps us make better data driven decisions and open up our eyes to other opportunities. And so I know that we need to probably work on a lot of things in our business operationally, but it's not the marketing platform that fails. People will tell us Marketing Pro is a terrible product. And Pam, I think you and I can both disagree with that.
Yeah, I love Marketing Pro. I think it's a fantastic product. To your point originally, I just think that it's the bad data that captures people. I think on its own, the usage of Marketing Pro, it is a skill set. It is something you have to learn to use, especially that audience builder. But man, that's so, so, so powerful. I mean, the incredible amount of things you can do with an email platform like that and an SMS platform like that is amazing. I always talk to our clients about it being sort of like an upside down pyramid or funnel type situation. Like, yeah, you could use an email platform to blast all of your current customers, but why do that when you can easily segment them, for example, by members and non-members? Or one time we did for a client by geographical areas, Northeast, Southwest. And you can not only tailor the email, but track the performance more accurately. And every bit of research, marketing research shows the more hyper personalized you can make a messaging and the more you can reach the right person at the right time, the better results you're going to get. And our experience at Powerhouse certainly proves that. So I think the product is amazing. What fails about the product is all of the data that's feeding into those segments.
Correct.
Like a really good example of that is like an email that goes out reminding people like, hey, schedule your maintenance visit. This is one of the first campaigns I built that failed because the team wasn't appropriately marking their membership visits as complete, or they were marking next year's membership visit as complete when this year's membership visit is still due. And the data just then kind of gets off. And then that is when an email like that is going to fail. But you're right, Crystal, like during these periods of time where you've got a lull, this is a perfect time to send such an email campaign. But Marketing Pro makes it really easy if your data is good.
Yeah. So I tell it, anything good, I'm just going to tell you, anything good takes time and energy, right? So it is Marketing Pro is a good investment. Just know that it also is a time investment. There's a
Mhm.
little bit of a learning curve, but once you learn it, it's just like Service Titan. Once you learn it, it is a powerful tool. And some of you that are smaller, so let's say you have less than 2,000 people in your database, right? And you're smaller, you're just getting started, or maybe you could utilize a simpler email system to do some simpler things. Just know that you're not able, it's a lot harder and a lot more cumbersome to then build those things. The other thing I've always learned is there's riches and niches. Okay. So, meaning when you can customize the message, like Pam mentioned. So, if I can sit, so this is a really cool campaign that McWilliams did, which is my family's company. One spring, late spring, we ran a campaign to every person that had refrigerant added to their system the previous summer. And so what did that tell us, right? So as an operationally, we were in our slower time because it was spring. The 2 times Texas is not hot, right? So we were in a lull and we needed some leads. We had people that we knew automatically there's an issue. You don't leak refrigerant. We probably had quoted a new system or at least attempted to, but we also know if we came out last summer and added refrigerant, we are going to probably need to come out this summer and add refrigerant. So how could we utilize that simple audience and blast them and say, hey, we want to make sure you're ready for summer. Don't be caught by surprise. And the first pound is on us. What that did is literally it spoke to them because they were like, oh, yeah, they came out last year. I remember it was $600, right? And so we custom curated a message around that went out to just that audience. And then we did a follow-up sequence like, hey, time's running out to claim that first pound on us promotion that we're running. And all of it was done to, number one, get any little bit that we could get out of the summertime was going to be better for us. But also, we trained the technicians when you go on these calls, make sure you are, if they need a new system or if they need, what do they really need? Yes, we're solving a temporary problem, but what do they really need? It was a very successful program for us. And then on the other side of that, we run campaigns specifically to of age equipment very consistently because of age equipment, if we're running something interesting like a vacation voucher, when you replace your system or whatever we're doing at the time, it is, again, it's speaking to them like, hey, we quoted a system for you last year, maybe it wasn't the right time, but that is where you start really making the most of that database that you have. But
Mhm.
what I see, and Pam, I think you see the same thing, what we see is the CSRs have this weird obligation to like own the data. So they tend to over manipulate the data sometimes. They over manipulate it, like they change things they don't need to be changing, or we're just not forcing them to put in the data that we need, like of age equipment, or the right tags or the right task codes or
Mhm.
whatever we're doing. They build, they might accidentally build a whole new call instead of building it out of an existing. There's lots of issues there, right? So I know I rambled for a minute, but I think you can relate to what I was saying there.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure, the customer service representatives, some of the most important people in our businesses, are responsible for collecting really clean and accurate data. So one tip that I would give any company is really take a look, do an audit of all of the different campaigns you have or lead
Mm,
sources that you have listed. A big issue that we come across with a lot of our clients, in fact, I just have a new client I met with this week, a garage door company based here in Texas, over 700 campaigns. Now, marketers that are here or people that believe in marketing, you think, wow, like what great rich data, what kind of like fantastic, like really intricate data that we're getting on like what really specifically gave us ROI or what really drove this
mhm,
job.
mhm.
But what you don't see is the CSRs having to select between 700 campaigns in a drop down when that call comes in. And I can guarantee you, they are not selecting accurately. They are going to scroll down, find the first one that looks like it's a good fit and pick that one. If a call tracking number didn't already pre-assign it a campaign. So I would really start by doing an audit of all of the campaigns, all the lead sources you have, and try to whittle it down the best you can. And remember, in a platform like Service Titan, there are many other ways to delineate your reporting. So for example, you can delineate reporting by both lead source and business unit. So there's no reason to put like business unit plus campaign. Like you don't need 7 campaigns for 7 business units. There's a way to delineate that. So really try to streamline your campaigns as much as possible. My second tip is, yes, the CSRs and DSRs are going to pick up things like equipment age. I think the tip that you gave, Crystal, is fantastic, where if they don't know the age of equipment, to then ask, well, have you ever replaced the equipment? How long have you been in the home, et cetera? I think that's a really great follow-up question. On the flip side, if you take a whole company approach, that the whole company is trying to make sure that we've got not just great data, but like we're trying to perform here and generate new jobs. A great thing that you can add to your technician debrief form, which is a form that your technician should be completing on every job, is what is the age of the equipment there, right? So even if they're not servicing it. So for example, my house here, we've actually have 2 HVAC units. We've got two condensers, 2 air handling units, that kind of thing. So even if you're not servicing one of those pieces of equipment, like have your technicians go around, and they're not necessarily going to get exactly the date of install, but you can get the information from the serial plate, the nameplate on the equipment, and you can use that to more accurately update your data on the back end. So add that to your technician debrief form so that you're really getting that good data, so you can really hyper target those best opportunities marketing wise afterwards.
So that second tip is basically add age of equipment to your debrief form.
Yep.
And the side tip would be implement a debrief form. Make sure that you've got a debrief in there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So some of it, this is what I say, like when you talk, and I hope this does not sound too braggadocious, but Pam and I live in this life every day. So to us, that there are some things that I'm like, what do you mean you don't debrief for technicians after the call?
Oh my gosh.
And
yes.
so this is what I want to encourage you guys as owners that are on this call. We are past that now. You should implement a debrief process. So, I remember the days when I worked at my family's company where you just dispatch to the next call, and literally I am old enough where we dispatched over a radio. So like base to unit 101, you're going to be headed here. But when you implement this debrief process, it forces the technician to stop and think through the call. Do you need to order parts? Do you need to go back? So it's more than just getting age of equipment, but that debrief form really literally debriefs the call center to make sure that guy's not going to drive away and forget to book the follow-up, order the part, do whatever. Oh, they joined our membership club. There's lots of little things that get caught in there, but asking them to do that little piece of add in the age of equipment, I think, is a great tool. So Darian just asked this question in the chat: who already does a debrief process? Just drop an emoji or drop something in there. If your company already has a debrief process, listen, Lemon Seed even implemented that ourselves. Like, hey, after each call, how did it work? Because it is so easy when they're busy. Your technicians are busy. It's so easy to do that. So
and
I
you
love
can
it.
even make it, Crystal, like on a debrief form, like just like everything in world, there's like, you can have like the most simplest debrief form, just really simple, and then layer on over time. But a really cool tip that you can do with a debrief form is you could make it customer facing. So for example, another company that we worked with this week, we introduced the idea of like a red, yellow, green, like health check on certain parts of their system. And so that makes it a really cool takeaway for your customer, because customers always feel like they're going to get scammed, right? So if you tell them, hey, you don't need to replace this now, but it's a yellow, like it's something like the next time we come out, I really want to take another look at that drain pan just to see how it's going. That gets your customer invested in you. It gets them to trust you. And then on your side, you get that data. So now you know, hey, we may need to follow up with that client, and you can incorporate into your marketing workflows.
Cool. Yes. So, I mean, again, this does not have to be this gigantic undertaking. It's literally simple steps. So we have several people saying they do have one. We have someone that's like, we have one, but we're not super consistent. And so again, consistency matters, just because again, good data is so powerful. So I love that. I love that. To talk about that, because consistency, like when people say, what's the silver bullet for marketing? You know what I tell them? Consistency. The
Yes.
silver bullet is consistency in general. Honestly, all marketing works when you organize it correctly, and spend correctly. But at the end of the day, what's really going to move a needle for you, if you're like, I want to grow my business and I want to do marketing, marketing is not what's going to grow your business. Operations is what's going to grow your business. Effectively implementing key performance indicators that do good things for you. Okay, so we've got your first two. How many do you have today for us?
I can create all sorts of tips, all sorts of tips.
All the things.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many pieces to this that are important. I think a really big piece of remarketing in particularly the HVAC industry, which I see many of the folks here are
Mhm.
joining us that are from that side of the industry. A really big piece here is going to be your memberships and having a very consistent process for your memberships and how to manage those, how to like keep up with those in your system so that you can accurately retarget to those folks. And everybody's membership program is different, but even just like a simple reminder of benefits can be very helpful. But you don't want to necessarily send a promotion to your members that just had service with you last week. So
Yeah.
keeping up with all of that is really important. And what all that leads to is making sure that you've got documented standard operating procedures for all pieces of your business operationally. And I can't emphasize how important this is, because everybody says, "Oh, well, everyone just knows our system, or this is just how we do it, and it's easy, and you pick it up, and it's fine." But having a documented process is really what's going to lead to that consistency. The consistency of, hey, every time I open a membership record, it should look this way. We should expect to see this every time we take a call. These are the things that we ask for. Every time we go to a job, we debrief, right? So you have these written SOPs. What that allows you to do is two things. It allows you to enable a structure to enforce that workflow, which is, as owners and managers, that is part of our job here. Is we can't just put a process out there and say follow it and trust that people follow it. Part of our job is making sure that everybody is following that process. But more importantly, churn and employee retention, that's a big thing. Your employees will leave your company at some
Mhm.
point, and you don't want that knowledge to leave with them. A great way of protecting your business and the operations of your business is to have a documented workflow that everybody's referring to on a daily basis, so that anytime a new employee comes on board, they're right on board with you.
Yeah, so let me ask this. We use Trainual. Lemon Seed ourselves, we use Trainual. So we put all of our SOPs in there and then we test on it when you onboard. And then sometimes we'll even say, hey, everybody needs to go review this new processes is in Trainual. And Trainual will tell us who has completed the training. And it's more just a good checks and balances. So, my entire life, my mom's a school teacher, my sister was a school teacher, my husband was law enforcement. They all had to have continuing education. So sometimes if you as an operator will look at, okay, my standard operating procedures are documented to the best of my ability, and to not let them just sit there and get dust on them, make it an active part of your training program. Like, everyone go review this SOP, and let's talk about it. Or, even with your managers, if you've got a few managers, like, hey, everyone go look through this. I think it's very impactful. But again, and I learned this from someone that ran a call center, they would say, you feel like your team knows it, but honestly, they're going to feel like they let you down if they're like, I have really no idea. But having that stored space, and then every quarter she had it on our calendar that we would go revisit our SOPs. So we would divvy it up and just go do a quick, gut check on our SOPs. I'm like, oh yeah, we did update this and we forgot to move this to that. But it is intentionality that gets there. But SOPs ensure consistency and it
Mhm.
gives your team a place to go. So I love it. We use Trainual. Do you have any other recommendations?
So we use a lot of Loom here, which is the
Yep.
screen sharing platform, because so much of what we do is within, a browser-based platform. And something that we have seen clients struggle with from time to time in something like a Trainual or Scribe or Tango or any of those is sometimes the screenshot like zooms into a specific region where it's like, okay, now click here. But for users, I don't know if y'all have ever done this. When you're sharing screens, you're like, click where? I don't see it. Right? So like you don't know like where on your screen it is. So Loom can be really helpful for walking somebody like step by step through the process. And like sometimes those little pieces that you miss are all captured there. I think that's really important. I also like really anything that is going to be easily editable. So one thing that I would avoid when we talk about an SOP with a Loom or like doing like a 1 hour long like recorded webinar and then using that is inevitably something's going to change. Like the process is going to change, or like you're going to change a label here, or the software itself changes, right? So you want to make sure your SOPs are going to be easily updatable so that you're not having to like constantly redo a 1 hour seminar each time. So I think that that's really important as well, is making sure it's easy for folks to like get it updated when it does require updates.
Yeah, I just honestly, these SOPs, though, it is also, this is going to sound bad, but it is also a tool for corrective action
Mm,
when people continue to disappoint you on how they are actually executing on their role. You can feel confident and say, hey, you can't tell me you didn't know. Here is the documented SOP that you have access to. So sometimes, you know what it does? It gives you an out so that you don't have
mhm.
to just justify that. So I really encourage SOPs on these things because it really sets expectations that you can then enforce and
Yep.
utilize to, number one, grow your team. Your team needs to get better. These are adults. They need to learn where to access information. But I want to go back to something you said about memberships. So memberships, I think, so Lemon Seed helps clients create memberships all the time. Create new, exciting membership programs because it is a marketable piece of your business, right? And it is also something that also can build and elevate your brand as a whole. And so, you kind of think about it. It reminds me of fan clubs back in the day. So I love to watch Golden Girls at the end of the night. It's just my low key vibe, right? Um, we were watching it, and there was the episode on there about the Elvis fan club, and they were passing around a half-eaten pork chop supposedly by Elvis Presley, right? And so it stuck with me though because basically we want to utilize our membership club as a fan club. So it needs to be creative, and people need to want to be a part of it. If the name of your maintenance program is called preventative maintenance, I equal that to a colonoscopy. No one wants to have to do, some of those things. And so when we can get more creative with your membership clubs, it gives us, number one, more to talk about. It gives us a sense of belonging. Like people want this cool thing, like, oh, I am a all access member. I'm a Sailor Mac member, whatever. And it just helps you build that brand and that customer experience because we do not want people shopping us every 4 minutes, right? Because new people come into our market, lower prices to get new lead acquisition. So using that membership and having something juicy that you can then remarket. So utilizing emails. The other thing I would tell you to utilize when you have your memberships correctly set up inside of your CRM, you can send those reminders about it's time to schedule, right? But you also can build that audience to send them unique offers like add-on things. So like, did you guys know as a Sailor Max celebration member, you get a discount on our new water filtration system, right? So it is a way to offer them insider perks and just think of it as a fan club. And what can you continue to feed those fan clubs? Like, hey, here's a perk reminder. Did you know you get priority scheduling? Don't forget, we guarantee to get to you within 4 hours of when you call, blah, 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 right? So there's
Mhm.
some really cool cool things there. I will tell you, Darian's asking here, if you have a membership right now and you love it and you think it's on brand, tell us the name of it. I would love to see some of the names of your maintenance clubs. And if you know it's not good, some of y'all, you know it's not good, tell me. I know it's not good, Crystal and Pam, but just we want to get you thinking through that because, like Pam mentioned, it's a really good audience to remarket to. But
Mhm.
most of my clients, Pam, they don't have it really set up correctly.
Yeah, yeah, we see that all the time. That's actually a lot of the reason why people come to Powerhouse Consulting Group for our help is to fix folks' memberships that have been set up. Because there's really quite a lot of different ways that a membership can be configured. And when you have it configured correctly, it's amazing and it really works well. And there's a lot of functions within these platforms that can make it really marketable, really valuable to not only your customers, but internally it's a great revenue producing tool. But yeah, I mean, we love it here. But most of what we see is things getting a little wonky in terms of whether it's a point of sale or a deferred revenue. And like a really normal example is, man, we've been booking this customer for membership visits for the last 2 years, and they're not paid on their membership, or things like that. So, what not to like harp on SOPs too much, but a really good way of making sure that your team is following some of these procedures is by designing reports or dashboards that like you should expect a number to be here. So like, for example, let's say your loyalty club has 500 members and you're doing spring and fall visits. When you enter the fall, you should have about 500 visits to do, right? Like that's how it should work. So if you're running a report of how many membership visits are due and there's 1,000, 2,000 visits, something's not right. Like, and so you as a leader should be digging into that to try to fix that, because it's not just that, like now that's a ripple effect that's going to impact everything else in your business. So you have to address it. So it helps. Something that I coach on is pick some metrics that, like when I run this report, the number should be this. And if the number is not this, then that's a problem. Some of my favorite reports are the ones where I call them zero exceptions reports, where there should be nothing on the report. If I pull this report, there should be nothing. So even like when we're talking about memberships, like membership visits that are due and the due date is like in the past. Well, that should be zero. We should have zero membership visits that are due in the past.
Yeah.
So if you have a report like that, now you know your SOP is not being followed.
Yeah, I love it. So that the SOP, I'm telling you, the SOPs. So Shannon, who's on today, she said, other than Trainual, do you have other suggestions for documentation? I think we were trying to go there. Do you have other suggestions? We've just used Trainual, and honestly, we use Google Drive for some things. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same block with Shannon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this totally depends on your company. But the most important thing is that it's in a central location that everybody knows where it is. At our company, we have what we call the PCG portal. Like everybody knows everything's in the portal, so you can just go to the portal. If you're looking for third party, like I mentioned, there's like we use Loom, Loom, for like screen share type videos. Lessonly is another great platform that's out there. But if you are using one of these platforms like a Service Titan, they have internal to Service Titan something called the content portal, where you can push out information like this to your team, most especially your technicians, which aren't necessarily at a desk. So that's available to you to kind of push out and have there and have available to them so that they can see it on their mobile devices and access it while they're in their trucks.
Yes, yes. So I hope that helps a little bit. So Loom and Lessonly, which Lessonly, those of us that are certified Service Titan partners like Powerhouse and Lemon Seed, we use Lessonly. That's how Service Titan ask us to stay up to date on things. And then we have some cool names. So EcoFi Advantage membership, We Care. And then one of my own clients said, we have a maintenance program, but it needs a new name apparently. And so Postma, I'm sorry, it's a little far away, Cares membership, and then John's Loyalty Club. So, those are great starts there. We've got some good ones there that just convey something for people to hold on to. So really good job with those. Well, I'm going to jump to some data fields that we think really need to be accurate, Pam. So I'm going to kind of put out a couple of thoughts here for you. But I love what I call closed loop marketing, right? So I like to know point of acquisition, but what all marketing touch points did that client interact with before they made the call, booked the schedule, whatever they did. And that's really hard to see, honestly, from a broad perspective. So it's nice when you can at least have an idea of where all people interacted. But one of the biggest mistakes that I see contractors making is when the call comes into Service Titan on a number that's built a campaign, that a campaign has, they allow the CSR to manipulate that point of acquisition. So they can say, oh, well, how did you hear about us? Oh, Google. Well, they actually called in from your email that you just sent. So the CSR will go change and say, well, actually they said Google. And you're like, okay, no. Or me, I want to argue no, because the client called from that one. And then the other one that makes me want to I drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee through my office door sometimes is existing customer as a campaign. Y'all, if you have existing customer as a campaign, you and I probably need to have a conversation about no, they're not. but that's another conversation. But do you agree that those probably are two things that are top culprits that are jacking with our data?
Those two, for sure. And just a quick note that, at least in Service Titan, that permission about CSRs being able to change the campaign, you can disable that. So, that's
number one. Key number one, disable that. And it's just because they're trying to help, but actually it's to your detriment. Give them a custom field and let them enter whatever the customer says to their heart's desired. But honestly, where they actually called in from, leave that alone so that you can see it.
Yeah. So that's a good tip there. A big one that we see quite a lot is, you mentioned it earlier offhandedly, Crystal, but booking, like completing, when we talk about completing the loop, completing the sales cycle. So we see a lot of broken workflows around the estimate process. So tech goes out and performs any kind of service and then leaves behind some estimates. And then the customer says, yes, I do. I want to do whatever is, has been, I want to replace, the fan or whatever. Okay, great. And then somebody creates a brand new job rather than creating it from the estimate and like linking those two jobs together. I mean, that for sure is one of the biggest things that causes problems like all through the system, because that changes like the campaign, the marketing campaign, that impacts conversion rate, that impacts commissions for your team, and then it impacts how many open estimates you have. Like, I mean, it throws everything away. So that is a really common mistake that we see.
Well, and I'll say this, where I see that the most is with direct mail. So many use this. So a lot of our clients will utilize Stochastic as one of their tactics. So Stochastic sends out a postcard very consistently to the same homes with like a $59, $99 tune-up. So one of my clients is like, I'm like, man, you're getting a ton of calls, but the revenue is so low to that campaign. And they're like, yeah, well, I mean, we're selling systems. And I'm like, there's no way that you are selling. This has $4,000 associated to the campaign. So what was happening, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pam, here, but what was happening, consumer, homeowner gets our postcard, they call in and say, I want y'all to come do a checkout. You send a technician, the technician says, I was able to get you up and running, but you really need a new system. Here's a quote on a new system. The technician can't close it in the home, leaves. Later on, someone follows up and the person closes the estimate. And instead of closing it inside of that estimate, they almost go create a whole new job. So that revenue from the actual sale of the system replacement never gets attributed back to that postcard. Well, listen, direct mail has a very low dial callback in. So we're going to drop 1,000 mailers and only 3 people are going to call. I need every dollar attributed back to that direct mail campaign. So right now it looks like it miraculously created money out of thin air when really the original point of acquisition was on that $49 postcard that you sent.
Exactly, and that new job will probably be categorized as Google again,
Yeah.
right? Or like
Yes.
existing
Website.
customer, and you're like,
Yeah.
dang it.
Oh, existing customer. If I look at it and it says you're a $3 million company and 2.2 million of it is existing customer, number one, you're headed
Yeah,
out of business. And number two, it's not true. I can just tell you it's not true. I don't care
yeah.
what anybody tells you, it's not true. And if they call you from Google local service ads, also not your customer. They straight up went to Google and said AC repair near me, and you happened to pop up and they thought they might have remembered you, not your customer. If they're your customer, they search you directly and they've used you. And listen, I'm going to hurt your feelings over this, but I'll give you 24 months. Okay. If they haven't used you in 24 months, but I'm more keen if they have not had some sort of interaction with your company in the last 18 months, they're no longer your customer. You got to re-earn them again. And so that's why it's important to get them on your maintenance club. There are things that are super crucial to those numbers, but you are right on closing the loop workflow. I wrote this down. Workflow breaks in workflow of how to actually do estimates correctly inside of that, I think it's game changer when it comes to attribution of the actual revenue being correct.
Yeah. And one of the most revenue driving campaigns that you can build is following up on those open estimates and following up regularly, whether it be email or SMS message, but creating these really highly personalized follow-ups, which again, using the tools that are out there, you can create some great follow-up emails on these estimates to get them closed. But again, we have this scenario where a tech goes out, leaves 3 estimates. Customer says, yes, I want to do estimate A. CSR books a brand new job. Those 3 estimates are still showing as open. So now, even though the customer, we've either scheduled or gone out and completed the work, the customer's getting the follow-ups on those estimates. And that is like a success from a business standpoint, like, yay, we secured the revenue, but like a failure from a marketing standpoint for all the reasons we've already stated. Not only, giving the customer an email that will probably frustrate them a little bit,
Yes.
but also the ROI is not all tied in together. So it's fascinating to me, Crystal, that many business owners invest in these platforms and systems and then don't run these reports on ROI for campaigns. So, I mean, you mentioned a $3 million company and 2.2 of it is existing customer. Like, some owners we work with don't even know those numbers. So that's a really simple and easy thing you can do today is just go in and look at your marketing performance. And if it's not aligning with your expectations, don't just like shrug it off and be like, oh, well, something's broken. Like, fix it.
Yeah.
It's your business.
And there's resources. There are resources out there to help you fix it. I mean, honestly, if you struggle with the setup of Service Titan and Marketing Pro and all that, like literally Powerhouse Consulting can help you do that. If you struggle with knowing how to get, good marketing tactics around, like what are some good marketing tools, Lemonseed's here to help do those things. And that's why I get like frustrated a little bit. Like right now, those of you, if you have Service Titan open, look at your dashboard and go look for last month and tell me what was your top producing marketing campaign, right? Was it existing customer? Was it email? Was it your website? Was it Google Business Profile? I'm curious to see it. To me, it should not ever be existing customer, because if it is, we've got a new customer acquisition problem. Because a company that's not getting new consistent customers in their system, it is going to be an issue for you. You're going to look up and be like, man, because you know what happens? Like, clients die off, they sell their homes, they move away. You accidentally upset them. There's lots of cool things. So Pam, here's a question. Going back to email, how do you improve your inbox rate? I'm assuming he means like open rate, probably there.
Yep.
A lot of campaigns are sent. Oh no, he's talking about junk going to spam. Is that a service
Yeah.
Titan thing? What do you think?
Yeah. So what you first need to look at is your delivery rate, and look at how many, like if those emails actually were delivered, and what your actual open rate is. So I don't know, Crystal, where you're aiming these days, but like a really great open rate is going to be like 30%. That is like fantastic.
Yeah,
Anything above 30%, I mean, that's when we're starting to get into those really highly personalized, highly targeted
yeah,
emails.
yeah.
So if you're looking at an email that was sent and your open rate is, say, 10%, what that tells me is your emails are getting delivered. They're getting delivered. Maybe we need to tweak the
Message.
subject line.
Yeah.
Yeah, the content, or maybe you're sending too many emails. This is another thing that I came across all the time, and I still do, and it's one of those things where you set up all these marketing automations, and now your customers are getting 4 emails or campaigns from you a day, because you haven't quite, set up the configuration correctly. So perhaps your customers have been conditioned to ignore the messages that are coming in because they're not of value to them, or it's too frequent. So I would definitely look at your delivery rate and your open rate to see if those emails are actually making it to inboxes. If they're not, Service Titan support is really fantastic about helping to troubleshoot those specific issues. So I would look at your open rate to start.
Yeah, so I want to say this to that. Like she mentioned it, you mentioned it, Pam. So like our job at Lemon Seed is to help you have creative campaigns that encourage open rates, right? So if you're this sounds so bad. So everyone, like, I'm in a little Baptist church, might step on your toes, but really what I want you to know is a lot of times it is a content problem that your open rate is low. You have a very salesy subject line, and they just scroll right on past it because you are one of 50 others in their inbox. So you've got to figure out a way to test those subject lines very consistently, and it'll just help you like check and see your open rate, making sure it's not going to spam. And so is there triggers that they could watch for it going to junk and spam?
The biggest one for me is the open rate, because that if people are opening the email, it means that it was delivered for everyone. But another big thing I wanted to mention is when we see a lot of, you can go in, by the way, to Service Titan and see who has marked one of your emails as spam. That's in your email settings. So you can go in there. Sometimes if a client reports this to me, that they feel like they're not getting a lot of traction from their emails, are their emails going to spam, I first go and I look at open rate. I second and I go and look at the audience to see, well, did we actually email the right people? But the third is I will go and I'll look at your suppression list, or your how many people have marked your emails as spam and reported you, as spam, that little like report to spam button. A lot of times I can sleuth around and figure out, oh, you sent this mass email to your entire 10,000 person database on this day, and we got 50 unsubscribes. And your internet service providers or ISPs are not going to like that. So you really got to be careful. So a great way so that's a good thing to check. So that's another thing I would check, is go look at the unsubscribes and when that happens.
See
Sometimes
if
you
you had a
can,
chunk. See if you had a
yeah,
chunk of them.
all the same day. Very likely you're sending these big email blasts. And we really haven't talked too much about segmentation, Crystal, but your open rate will go up the more segmented you make your campaigns. So the broader of an audience you send to, the lower you can expect your open rates to be. But you should still be aiming for that, like above 20%,
Yeah.
20 to 30%
So, and
range is
we
what you should be aiming for.
So we have several of our clients so what Lemon Seed sends for clients is normally a monthly newsletter, right? So think
Mhm.
Lemon Seed's our desire is to keep brand recognition. So we send those. A lot of ours will have a 30 to 40% open rate, which we are high-fiving each
That's
other over
awesome.
that. But we also work really hard to make it very localized, non-salesy. And so we've conditioned their customers to know what's coming. But I do have a couple of customers. I'm like, why is their open rate 10%? And to Pam's point, when I go back historically, I'm like, you were sending the same people like 6 emails a month because we had no control over some of the sequences that they had set up. And so, but I want to say another thing too about customizing emails. So, let's take where I live, right? So our main hub city is Lufkin, right? And so that has one zip code. It is really easy to send. Okay, I'm going to send an email out to that Lufkin zip code that says, "What's up, Panther fans? Lufkin Panthers are making the playoff tonight. We can't wait. Super excited." And then I'm going to drop content. I can then go simply change the beginning of the email to say, "What's up, Dieball Lumberjack fans?" And the same email, but it's a different audience that I'm sending it to. And that alone, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel with these different audiences. Sometimes it's just minor tweaks to the intro. Maybe it's a graphic change. So a couple of different audiences, like people that have used one of your services, but not the other. So they've used you for HVAC, but not for plumbing, or they've used you for plumbing, but not electrical, whatever, right? So those are easy to say, hey, you let us take care of all of your plumbing. Did you know we offer electrical? Here's an electrical coupon. And then you literally just switch out the wording and send it to the other audience, right? But again, to Pam's point, it's a lot more like, oh yeah, they did come out, right? They did come out and fix that plug for me outside for my hot tub. Now I didn't know they did plumbing. I should have thought about that, right? All you're doing is building authority and a relationship with people. But I'm telling you, using task codes, using job types, using membership and non-membership services, area codes. So don't get overwhelmed. Like, I don't know how to build out all these different groups. You actually have access to lots of different groups with not, you don't have to change a ton. Now, I could be wrong, Pam. So I just don't think you have to reinvent every piece of content out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And Christina, one of my colleagues here at Powerhouse, is giving like a perfect idea.
Yes,
Something
great
we
idea.
build for a lot of clients is power outage, freeze warning, heat wave. Like you can create all of these as templates. And I actually call them ready to launch emails. I have them sitting in draft. They are ready to go. They've got the call tracking number, like everything is like set up. It is ready to hit go on the day that we think there's an allergy alert, there's a this, there's a that. Like when you have downtime is a great time to build out some of these campaigns and have them just sitting and like waiting for you, and then just like run them. And it's super easy and a really great way to drive business. Even if like many of our plumbing customers, like a freeze warning is such a great one, because those, to your point, Crystal, you're just getting your brand out there and you're building credibility, and we know what we're
Authority.
talking about. We want to protect your home. Here are some tips. And it doesn't even necessarily have to have a call to action. It's just putting your brand out there.
Yeah, a lot of times people don't go, man, if they would have just asked me for my business, I probably would have called them. Right.
Right.
They don't read the email and be like, dang, there was no way. Instead, you just have to look at things holistically a lot of times. And it's you dig your well before you're thirsty with people, right? So you're constantly keeping that well up to date so that when you have to go to it for water, you've done some good work. So we are down to like our last 5 minutes. And so thank you for that question, Patrick, earlier about going back to email. Christina, great tip. Shannon, great question about training. If we have any other questions, drop these into the chat while Pam and I kind of follow up here, and we're going to wrap things up, but we're happy to answer a few more questions. But, Pam, I think I want to just drop in this last little moment of, we see a lot of similar problems. Honestly, we probably see a lot. It's the same, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6
Mhm.
probably real legitimate problems. And it feels weird because honestly, as contractors, you feel like it's so personal. It is me. I'm the only person that has this problem, and you're not. Odds are you struggle with Marketing Pro and email. 90% of our clients do,
Mhm.
because on your list of things to do as an owner, it's really hard to prioritize your Marketing Pro audience builder. Okay, let's just call it what it is. But what if I could encourage people, my little bit of advice would be, because I want to play a little bit off of her SOPs, it's make sure that especially your CSR team, just because they receive the
Right.
front end of the conversation, I would make sure they understand why data it needs to be clean. So you can't assume that they know it. I've learned, don't assume anything. And even start off by saying this may seem very elementary to you, but honestly, at the end of the day, you need to show them why it matters about age of equipment. Why does having a cell phone number matter? Why does having the right name assigned to the right cell phone number matter? Because if they understand what your long term strategy is for utilizing that data, it helps them know why they need you to do it that way. And I go back to when I came on as the marketing coordinator for McWilliams back in 2014. I was like, why? Why do we care so much about, business units and separate locations? Like, I would be like, this is so, but then I realized, like, oh, I can't run these campaigns to commercial clients. So then I was like, okay, fine, business units matter. I give in. But, really taking the time, and part of your training with your CSR team is helping them understand how vital they are to clean data in, clean data out start process. So that's my tip. Pam, do you have one? I know I didn't prep you for that, but do you have one that pops up to you?
No, I just want to add on to that, to really make use of your reporting, right?
Mm,
So, and I think that so much of people's marketing efforts are focused on new customer acquisition. So when we think about the sort of data harvesting, if you want to call it that, that our CSRs do and our technicians do and our dispatchers do, and how that goes. Like, I feel like a great thing that you can do is set up like a campaign target, right? So for example, new system installs, and only target the existing customers that you have based on the data that's been collected, and share that performance data with your team and say, do you know how we got all of these sales? Do you know how we booked all of these jobs? It was because you tagged it as the system is more than 10 years old. It's because when you went out to the job, you took a picture of the nameplate and we were able to get the information, and then we targeted that customer. So to Crystal's point, I think reports can be such a powerful way to see how your marketing is performing, and you can go back and share that with your team. But of course, good marketing and good reporting, it also goes back to those same workflows.
perfect. Perfect. I love it. So, just so you guys know, Lemon Seed Marketing, our role is basically your overall marketing fractional CMO. We are here to help you have a comprehensive, very holistic marketing strategy, all while building a long-standing brand in your market. And so, in the chat over there, Darian, my team member, is going to drop how you can book a time to meet with Lupita and let her just show you what pricing looks like with Lemon Seed. We'd love to do that. But while Darian is putting that link in the chat and pop it up on the screen, you guys have a little download or treat for people watching today.
Yeah, we do. So I have a little worksheet that I put together that is what I call your marketing SOP starter kit. And it goes through step by step what you need to do to make sure that your marketing reporting is clean so that you can actually get good ROI on your campaigns. You know how each of those campaigns is performing, or you can start seeing those gaps in your workflow. So we have a little PDF that you can fill out, and I'll drop that in the chat, or okay,
There you go.
Darian, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
That will get you a download to your inbox, so that you can get started on your own of building out clean reporting and good marketing SOPs.
That is wonderful. Cool. I love starter kits. Honestly, you eat an elephant and a cookie the same way, one bite at a time. So just slowly but surely start making some headways on those SOPs that in turn will help your data. Well, Pam, again, I knew that we would have plenty to talk about. We could fill 5 hours
I
probably
know we could just keep talking for hours.
worth of conversation. So, thank you so much for joining me today. We will be sending everyone that registered for this webinar a recording of it, along with the links for Lemon Seed and their awesome downloadable here for the SLP starter kit. And so it's an exciting time to be on here. Again, for Lemon Seed, we have our podcast called From the Yellow Chair. We'd love for you to go listen. And our podcast, or I'm sorry, our conference coming up in 2 weeks. So we are really excited. Lots of fun stuff kicking off January. So Pam, Powerhouse Consulting, thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you that are watching, keep up with us. Powerhouse has lots of great content that they're putting out. Go follow them on their socials. Again, tons of free content that Pam and her team put out very consistently for you to go watch and learn and observe. And then I highly encourage you. They're one of our favorite referral partners for helping our clients really get their head wrapped around content. So thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your week because it's Friday Eve. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.